Well, the coalition will settle on its new look front bench this week as Susan Lee tries to balance the demands of the factions, I should say. Joining us live is the Assistant Foreign Minister Matt Thistlethwaite, Liberal Senator Holly Hughes. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
May as well put your feet up, Matt. We'll come to you in a moment. But Holly, as you prepare to depart, where do you hope that Susan Lee lands this week?
I was going to say, Pete, I can put my feet up now too.
Yeah.
It's not going to include me.
Precisely, this frees you both up here. Well, particularly you, Holly. So where do you hope Susan Lee lands?
Look, I think what's really important, and we hear it all the time, from some people saying, we couldn't have quotas, it's got to be on merit, it's all got to be done on merit. And I really do hope that we see a shadow ministry that's put together on merit, if that's what the Liberal Party wants to focus on, as well as the National Party, then it should be based on merit. Those are that are going to make the best contribution, do the work, put the policies together. And I think, Matt would understand this. It's not always just opposing. Sometimes, you've got to work constructively with the minister, certainly in my role, particularly around mental health and NDIS in the last parliament, talking to Emma McBride and Bill Shorten through a lot of the reforms and different processes that were done. So it's not just about opposition, which is what everyone likes to see, and certainly in the media what gets the attention. But it's also people who can work in the background to make sure that legislation, when it is coming up, that it does have that passage through the parliament when it can, because it's about good government, right. And that's why you need a strong opposition. So I do hope that there are people that can actually look at the portfolio areas, do the work, and then make sure that there is the ability to work constructively, because I can tell you, you want to be able to see the two major parties. You want to see Labor and Liberal to be able to work on best reforms, not the Labor Party having to rely on the unicorn farmers that are the Greens.
I know. Look, I know that you've got beef with Angus Taylor, but he's been talked about as potentially, shadow treasurer, shadow defence or shadow foreign. I mean, there's a whole lot of speculation about that today. But we've got someone like Dave Sharma coming up in the program next hour, who's across foreign matters pretty much more than anybody when it comes to the opposition. Is he someone who should be considered in this role if you're talking about merit?
Look, it's merit, it's what's the next generation coming through and who should be going into these roles so they can sort of learn the ropes on that policy formation, how you take a bill through Parliament or the Senate. This is an opportunity for people to grow into roles and learn things. One of the things that I do think, and this might be a little bit controversial, but I loved when I had climate change and energy. I absolutely thought it was fantastic. I loved getting my teeth into the subject matter and getting across it. I didn't love being in NDIS as much because I have a real connection to the NDIS. My son's on the NDIS. I fight the battles with the NDIS. Sometimes portfolios are actually better suited when you don't have a personal connection to them. I think, not sure teachers make the best education ministers, not sure doctors make the best health ministers. Okay. So, I think that's something to consider. All
right. Well, on to some policies now. This is one for you, Matt. It's tax reform, because a poll, I know we love talking about this on a Monday morning, but a poll out this morning shows Australians want Jim Chalmers to use Labor's huge victory and your massive cushion that you have right now to tackle broad tax reform and reduce budget debt. Some of the ideas this morning are about pressuring the states to drop stamp duty. It's one example. Raising the GST. Now, these things are difficult, but given that you have this cushion now, is that something that you'd be interested in?
Well, we are trying to undertake some tax reform, Pete. We're changing the way that superannuation is taxed, particularly people with large superannuation balances above $3 million. We're seeking to make that system fair. It affects a very small proportion of the population. And the interesting thing is that a lot of the people that have been calling for tax reform are the ones that are actually opposing this. We think it's a pretty sensible reform.
You know what I think? What I think the biggest problem with this is, and I feel like it's reasonable, is, and I've said this numerous times here, is the idea of taxing an unrealised gain. I just think that's totally bizarre that you could tax something that might not even happen.
We're talking about a very, very small proportion of the population.
Well, that's right now. We're going around in circles because you're going to affect a whole lot more in the long run.
So essentially, it's an equality argument. We're saying that people shouldn't be able to shift income into superannuation to avoid paying their fair share. Now, if you don't tax it in that manner, then it means that people will simply shift all of their assets into property. That has implications for the property market. It will push up.
But they're also investing in businesses,
because demand will go up.
Family farms.
Yeah.
But that's the point. If you don't do it that way, then people can avoid paying that tax and putting it off, and that's not.
But why
fair.
not other areas?
It's
I mean,
it's essentially an equality argument that the average Australian worker, a nurse, a teacher, a childcare worker, they can't shift much of their income into superannuation to avoid paying their fair share of tax. But that less than 1% of the population can, because they're high income earners. We don't believe that that's fair. We think that everyone should pay their fair share. So it's essentially an equality argument.
I think a lot of economists agree that there's opportunity in super, that there is opportunity in super. It's just the idea of taxing something that hasn't happened yet. That's under the socialism umbrella.
But if you don't do it that way, then you undermine the actual purpose for which you're instituting the tax. It means that people can simply shift into those assets and avoid paying it, and that undermines the quality of the actual principle for which you're instituting that public policy. So we think that it's fair, and particularly given that it affects such a small proportion of the population, and it's only for the proportion of the income that's above the $3 million.
But
so
how many?
$3.5 million. It's only 500.
You say small now. You say small now. How many is it going to affect in 20 years?
Yeah.
Well, but at the moment, it's less than 1% of.
Yeah, at the moment. What about 20 years?
Well, you can always adjust policies into the future.
Oh, yeah.
We're seeking to.
Hang on.
We're seeking to ensure that we can institute this policy now because we think it's fair. We did take it to the election, so it's not like we're springing it on people. And it's essentially an equality argument.
Go, Holly.
I look unburdened by talking points now. What you asked Matt about was about broad tax reform and looking at, a much broader reform of our tax system rather than just superannuation. Remember, they said they weren't going to make any changes to superannuation, but yet here we are. But I think, there are opportunities for much broader reform of our tax system, not just tinkling around the edges. And the fact that we've now got such a high proportion of our tax system based in income tax, there are ways that it could be reformed. And again, as someone departing the parliament, I hope that the Labor Party, in the similar way that Bob Hawke worked with John Howard, that there was able to be significant tax reform with serious parties of government actually able to work through this constructively. And again, not these pie in the sky. I mean, unrealised gains is just unbelievable.
And also,
but that they're not relying on the Greens to pass this stuff, because you want socialism, you'll get out and out communism if you let the Greens near it.
But this is also the problem, and I have to close here, but the problem with what Matt just said there, that things can change, that's what people are worried about, that it could be unrealised gains in super and then it moves on to other assets.
Well, we don't have any other policies except the one that we took to the election around superannuation. And
seriously, no other economic policies. Wow.
Well, no, I again go, in terms of tax reform, we're the only party at the moment that's proposing any substantial tax reform. It's a policy that we took to the election. We're not springing this on anyone. It's not a surprise. It's been out there in the domain for the last 3 years. And it's a policy that everyone... It's a policy that everyone understands and that we think is fair.
Do they?
We're the only ones, Holly.
Holly,
we're the only ones that are actually proposing.
Hey, I'm on the way out, and I want this country bigger and better. And I want to see proper tax
Why don't you propose something?
All right.
I'm on the way out.
The Libs have got a few things to work out before all of that, Matt. But thank you.
Maybe that's why we need a new shadow treasurer, so we do have some.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you both. We'll talk to you again next week.